They lost the boy. In the safest place money could buy, he vanished. The security team scrambled. The hotel manager's hands shook. But when the billionaire burst through the glass doors, rage in his eyes, no one expected what he was about to find, or who would be holding his unconscious son. The Monarch Hotel lobby was designed to impress. It didn't whisper wealth. It screamed it. Ivory marble floors stretched like polished ice beneath towering crystal chandeliers. A live grand piano hummed jazz standards under the precise fingers of a tuxedoed pianist. The scent of vanilla, oak, and luxury leather hung in the air like perfume. Guests in designer suits and silk evening gowns floated past bellhops and sommeliers. Everything was exactly as it should be, until it wasn't. The glass doors slammed open. "Where is he?" Justin Crane's voice cracked like a whip across the marble. His custom sunglasses flew off his face, crunching underfoot as he stormed inside. His tailored Tom Ford coat flared behind him like a cape. His hair wind-blown, his chest heaving. "Where is my son?" The entire lobby stopped. The piano notes wobbled and died mid-chord. Cell phones tilted up. A woman gasped, clutching her pearls like a cliché out of an old film. The manager, an older man named Levin with a European accent and a reputation for control, was frozen, his face pale. Behind the front desk, a young receptionist fumbled with her headset. "We're checking the cameras, Mr. Crane," she stammered. "He's 5, Justin roared. 5! How do you lose a 5-year-old boy in a building with more cameras than a casino?" A security guard tried to speak, tried to steady his voice. But Justin was already in motion, grabbing the man by the collar, slamming him against the reception desk. "You had one job," he snarled, eyes blazing. "One!" And then, a collision. Hard, sudden, human. He'd slammed into someone rounding the corner by the lobby exit. A woman. She staggered back a step under the weight of the impact, barely staying upright. Her uniform was plain: blue polo, faded apron, old white sneakers. One of the shoes had duct tape across the sole. Her hands trembled. But it wasn't fear in her face. It was focus. Because in her arms, clutched close to her chest like something sacred, was a soaking wet child. Justin's breath caught. His hand froze an inch from the door handle. The child's face turned slowly, weakly, toward him. It was his son, Liam, limp, unmoving, pale as porcelain. The world stopped moving. His voice, when it came, was a whisper of panic. "What? What did you do to him?" The woman didn't answer right away. Her chest rose and fell in ragged breaths. Her eyes were wide, the whites bloodshot, her cheeks damp with chlorine and tears. "I pulled him out of the pool," she said softly. "He was underwater. He wasn't breathing." The silence after that sentence was deafening. One of the security guards behind Justin staggered back like he'd been punched. Another's face turned ghostly white. Someone from the concierge staff gasped, covering her mouth with trembling fingers. The room went from frozen to melting. Justin stepped forward on legs that suddenly felt unfamiliar. "What? Where was he?" The woman didn't blink. "The West Wing pool. He must have snuck out. I saw something. Floating." Her voice cracked. "I ran." "You're not even trained," one of the managers said in disbelief. "I didn't have to be," she replied. "I just looked." She gently passed Liam into Justin's arms. The boy's chest was rising, shallow but steady. His soaked pajamas clung to his skin. his dark curls matted across his forehead. Justin dropped to his knees, right there, in a lobby built for power plays and gala entrances. On the cold marble floor, in front of hundreds of eyes and cell phone cameras, the billionaire wept. No one said a word. The janitor, because that's all she was to them a few minutes ago, stood silent, dripping wet from the waist down, shaking from adrenaline and fear and the weight of a moment that could have gone so much worse. She didn't smile, didn't pose for the cameras. She just stood, watching a man realize that the only reason he wasn't holding a lifeless body was her. Not the staff, not the expensive security detail, not the polished men with earpieces and titles. Her. He shouted at her to move, barked orders like he owned the ground she stood on. But then he saw what was in her arms, and his world tilted on its axis. Some moments redefine a man. This was his. "Get out of my way!" Justin Crane's voice had thundered across the lobby like a war drum. He didn't see her. Not really. Not the woman. Not the uniform. Just another person in the way. But his hand froze inches from the brass door handle. Because what she was holding wasn't luggage, wasn't a mop or folded towels. It was his son. And Liam wasn't crying. He wasn't squirming or blinking or making a sound. His small face was pressed against her shoulder, slack and pale. His lips tinged a dangerous blue, his hair dripping, clinging to his forehead in soaked curls. For a split second, Justin couldn't speak, couldn't move. "What? What did you do to him?" he gasped, stepping closer, heart hammering in his chest like a bird slamming against a window. The woman didn't recoil. She didn't get defensive. She just looked up, eyes bloodshot, her frame trembling from exertion and adrenaline, and said, "I pulled him from the pool. He wasn't breathing." Those 4 words knocked the breath out of Justin's chest harder than if she'd slapped him. From behind him, there was a sharp intake of breath. One of the security guards turned away, ashamed. Another shifted his weight and looked down, avoiding eye contact. Someone near the piano whispered, "Oh my God." He clutched Liam tighter, falling to his knees without caring how it looked. The marble was cold beneath him. The air tasted sterile, but his son's small chest moved. Up, down, shallow, but it moved. The woman spoke again, her voice breaking. "I saw him at the bottom. I think he snuck in. No one was there. Not a lifeguard. Not security. No one noticed. I didn't think. I just jumped." Justin finally looked at her. Really looked at her. She was drenched from the waist down. Her shoes were soaked through, one of them literally held together by gray duct tape. Her apron was stained, not from the pool, but from work. Bleach, dust, time. Her name tag was slightly crooked. Mia. She looked exhausted. Not just physically, but like someone who'd carried the weight of being unseen for a long time. And still, she had seen his son when no one else did. The paramedics arrived within minutes. The hotel staff scrambled now, too late, with stretchers and apologies and explanations that sounded like excuses. Justin handed Liam over gently, kissing his forehead with a trembling whisper. "Stay with me, buddy. Stay with me." They took Liam to the hospital. Justin was supposed to go with them, but he didn't. Not right away. He turned instead, back to her. The woman who had stood silently, watching the chaos unfold. No one asked her name. No one offered her a towel. No one told her, "Thank you." She wasn't part of the narrative, not in their eyes. But in his, she had rewritten it. Your name, he said, his voice hoarse. Mia, she repeated quietly. Mia Wilson. A security manager finally found his voice. We had no idea the boy went down that hallway. He must have slipped through the stair access. Justin raised a hand, silencing him. You didn't know where my son was for over half an hour, he said. She did. The man stammered. Sir, if we had been informed. She jumped in, Justin growled, while you were checking cameras. The man fell silent. Guests were still watching. Phones still filming. But none of that mattered to Justin Crane anymore. Later, when the hotel returned to its rhythm, when the piano picked back up and the floors had been dried, Justin sat alone in his suite. He stared out the window over the skyline of Los Angeles, one hand resting on the small stuffed lion his son always carried. The adrenaline had worn off. What remained was something deeper, something like shame. He had almost missed it, the most important moment of his life. And he'd nearly screamed in the face of the woman who saved it. The next morning, the monarch held a press conference. People assumed it was damage control. They were wrong. Standing at the podium, in front of reporters and staff, Justin Crane looked different. Less polished, more present. I built a reputation on precision, he began. Efficiency, control. But yesterday, I was reminded that none of those things matter if we're blind to the people around us. He turned to the side, gesturing toward someone standing just outside the camera's frame. And Mia Wilson stepped into the light. She hadn't wanted to. She hadn't expected it. But there she was, in her pressed uniform, hair neatly pulled back, face still carrying the quiet strength of someone who didn't need applause to know her worth. This is Mia, Justin said. She isn't the head of security. She doesn't have a fancy badge. But when it mattered, she saw something the rest of us didn't. She acted. He paused. She saved my son's life. Reporters scribbled furiously. Flashes flickered. And today, he continued, I want to announce that Mia Wilson will be stepping into a new role as head of security operations for the Monarch and our entire hotel group. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Mia stood stunned. Justin smiled, but only briefly. Because security isn't about titles. It's not about salaries. It's about vigilance, courage, heart. And yesterday, this hotel's heartbeat in the hands of someone most of us never even noticed. That night, when Mia walked home to her modest apartment on the edge of the city, the streetlight above her buzzed faintly, as if waking up to her story. She opened the door, dropped her old sneakers by the wall, and sat down on the couch, still in uniform. On the kitchen counter was a single envelope. Inside, her new badge, her new title, a handwritten note that simply read, You didn't just save a boy. You saved me. Thank you. Justin. She didn't cry, but she smiled. Because for the first time in a very long time, someone had seen her too. She was just a name tag in the background, just a uniform blending into the marble, until the day she leapt into the water while everyone else checked footage. Now, the billionaire who used to bark orders sees her not as staff, but as a standard. The headlines hit every major outlet by morning. Janitor saves billionaire's son from drowning. Justin Crane promotes hotel worker to head of security in bold move. The woman who saw what millions missed. They called her the hero of the Monarch. Mia called it another Monday. She was still up by 5 a.m., still made her own coffee in the chipped green mug that said keep going, still fed her cat, a rescue named Wanda, and still tied her work shoes with a double knot. But everything else had changed. Not on the outside. Not yet. But inside her, something had shifted. When she returned to the hotel that morning, after an evening of TV crews and phone calls from strangers thanking her, something was different in the way people looked at her. The receptionist stood a little straighter. A barista she'd passed every day but never spoken to handed her a free cappuccino with a quiet, "Thanks." One of the bellboys nodded, his voice hushed. "They're saying you're a legend." She smiled politely. But what struck her wasn't the attention. It was the sudden awareness. For years, she'd been invisible. Now every eye followed her down the corridor. Justin Crane was already in the security office when she arrived, but not in his usual suit. He was in a plain gray button-down. No tie, no entourage. He stood up when she walked in. "Ms. Wilson," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. "Mr. Crane," she replied. There was a moment of silence. Not awkward, just full. He broke it first. "I've reviewed your file." She waited. 15 years in private security before this, he continued. "Worked 2 jobs while taking care of your mother. Passed the civil service exam. CPR certified. Fire rescue training. And still, your application was ignored." Mia looked down. "That's how it goes." "No," he said firmly. "That's how it used to go." He slid a thick binder across the table. "What's this?" she asked. "Your department," he said. "Security and safety, full control. You'll pick your own team, set new standards. Your call." Mia blinked. "You're serious?" "As a heart attack, and I'm going to be honest with you, Mia. What you did that day, you didn't just save my son. You exposed every crack in this building we thought was unbreakable." He leaned forward. "And I need someone who sees what others don't. Someone who runs toward the problem. That's you." By the end of the week, the entire culture of the hotel began to shift. Gone were the days of managers brushing off janitors. Gone were the whispered slurs in service corridors, the overlooked safety reports, the staff complaints that got misplaced. Mia didn't walk the halls anymore. She inspected them. She saw everything. The loose fire door on the east wing, the malfunctioning lock on the rooftop terrace, the cameras with blind spots, the guest who left his 5-year-old unattended near the gym entrance, until Mia herself walked up and said calmly, "Let's get you back to your dad, sweetheart." Everywhere she went, staff fell quiet, but not from fear, from respect, because she was one of them. And now she was their voice. Manager Levon, the same man who once called her invisible in an open meeting, was quietly demoted. The security team that missed Liam's disappearance? Replaced. Mia didn't make speeches. She didn't seek revenge. She just made changes. And they rippled like waves through every corner of the Monarch. One night, 2 weeks later, Mia stayed late to review incident logs. As she locked the office, she noticed a light still on down the hallway. The ballroom. She stepped inside. Justin was there, sitting alone in the middle of the enormous empty room. No champagne, no guests, just him and his son. Liam was laughing, chasing a balloon around the polished floor. He looked over and waved when he saw her. "Hi, Ms. Mia." She smiled. "Hey, buddy. You doing okay?" "He won the spelling bee," Justin said, standing up. "Well, first time back at school since, you know." "That's great," she replied, genuinely. Justin hesitated. "I still think about it. That day." She said nothing. She knew the weight of memory. I've been in boardrooms with prime ministers, he continued. Closed billion-dollar deals on 5 hours of sleep. But I've never felt smaller than I did when I saw you holding him. She turned to go. Mia, he called after her. One more thing. She turned. Why did you jump? She paused. The answer was simple, but true. Because someone had to. In a world that moves too fast and values the wrong things, some people keep their heads down and hope to be noticed. Mia Wilson didn't wait to be noticed. She acted, and when the moment came, the world noticed her anyway. Not for her uniform, not for her badge, but for her heart. And that, in the end, changed everything.